more and more these days, people are playing multi-format cricket, and so the question is coming up about split captaincy. Should one person be captain T20 one day, ODI one day, Test match one day? Does he ever get to relax? And it's interesting. I mean, I'd love to hear your take on split captaincies. I know that England do it well with Morgan and Root, but Morgan doesn't play one form of the game. In India, there's been a little whisper about whether Rohit should do white and Kohli should do red. When I asked Nasser this question, he actually thought there might be split coaching might be the way to go. Because coaching, he gave the Trevor Bayliss example about how he took the white ball cricket somewhere else, but red ball didn't grow as much. So, what are your thoughts? Split captaincy, split coaching?
Firstly, on the captaincy, I think it really depends. Like for England, as you quite rightly said, their circumstances are, but Owen Morgan is not a Test player. He has been, but he's not recognised as a Test player. So he's a specialist white ball cricketer. So it worked for them very easily. It was a natural transition. With India's example, which is probably the highest profile example, the only reason I would consider split captaincy there is purely to preserve the longevity of Virat Kohli. Virat Kohli is a superstar. We all know that. And he's an absolute delight to watch, to compete as a captain and as a batsman. But if you took the white ball captaincy away from him, for instance, the question and discussion should be, can we have this special talent for longer? Because the role of captain in 3 formats in any country is a significant role, but in India, it's another league. It's a completely different pressure, and I would be concerned that if Kohli, and I think this discussion may have been had, if he maintains the 3 captaincy roles, are we losing potentially 2 years of international cricket from one of the game's greatest ever players?
Split coaching?
Coaching, I think it really depends on the personnel. I think it's a very good idea, but if you've got a coach like Justin Langer, for instance, with the Australian team, when that was discussed early on in his tenure, he was very reluctant because he wanted to mould the whole of Australian cricket, not just the Test side or not just the white ball side. And so he's talking more about the role as the head coach, making sure that his impact flowed through the culture and the values that he was wanting to instill in Australian cricket was across all formats, not just on one format. But if you've got a situation where specialist coach, I do believe that there is a significant difference there where you may have a specialist bowling coach for red ball cricket against white ball cricket, because they are 2 very, very different mindsets. And with regards to how you prepare them technically and also mentally for those different challenges are very different. So to enable the wheels to spin as quickly as you'd like, I think there could be more options when it comes to specialists, when it comes to your bowling, your fielding, your batting and so on.
Do you look at, I know you've expressed the ambition, the desire to be India coach once, you've thrown your hat at the ring a couple of times as well. Do you look at India from a coach's hat, from the outside? Because one of the things that worries people is there's so much talent, so much ability. 2013 Champions Trophy through to the 2019 World Cup, there hasn't been an ICC title. Is there, as you view it from the outside, something India's missing there?
Well, one of the huge challenges India has to face, whether they like it or not, is the expectation on their talent. There's no question that India has got more talent by a long stretch than any country playing our game. But sometimes that can be a burden, not just the expectation, but when you've got too many players to choose from, it can cloud your thinking and your philosophy on how you want to play and how you feel you need to play to win a particular tournament. And I suppose the best example for mine was the campaign in England, when it seemed that India, 12 months out, was ready to play that tournament, but the next 12 months to the lead up to the actual start of the tournament did their very best to sabotage their hopes of winning that tournament by changing batting orders, changing personnel within the batting order, creating uncertainty amongst the whole playing group. And if anything, when you come into major tournaments, that's where you want to crystallize people's thinking and thought and not be influenced by what I would call the white noise that the media might be talking about, because you know exactly what path you're on, you know exactly what you need to be doing. You just need to remain consistent with that, because players also sense the uncertainty when, you know, those things are happening.
Big difference between coaching Kings and coaching SRH?
Yeah, very big difference. One was the first 3 years of the IPL, where I think the IPL was trying to find its identity. It was an entertainment, but the focus wasn't on the field. And I think over time, the IPL, it's switched to, it's an entertainment, but it's a cricket entertainment that gives you a few extras that enriches you, whether it be you're a listener, a viewer, or a spectator at the ground. I think in the early days, it was very difficult from a coaching perspective, because there was a lot of outside noise and distractions that just did not relate to the team or the team's growth or success.
So when you're sitting, picking teams like these, and you said you're very close to the analysts, there's a lot of data that's coming through these days. Where does data end and where does judgment begin? So you look at someone and say, okay, I want 6 guys, okay, not 6, I want 3 guys who in 10 balls can give me 28 times in the IPL, say 7 times out of 14. But there's a lot of data coming your way. Where does data end, where does judgment begin?
I think that the relationship is the key thing there. Is one, the analyst, understanding what your philosophy is and understanding what you hold as important with regards to the brand of cricket that you want to play. And he then supports that with information and challenges you with information that you may not have looked at. Quite often I would say to our analyst Srini, I'd say, tell me something I don't know. I already know that the left arm spin option to player A is what we need to be doing. That's the obvious. We all know that. They talk about it in the commentary box. We already see statistics on Cricbuzz or wherever it might be. Tell me something I don't know. And tell me something I can quietly go up to a player and just give him something that he certainly won't know, that he might just take away and think, well, okay, well, I'm going to use that. Or they may not use it, but you just, without force feeding it, I think it needs to be drip fed, and also to the right people. I think some players welcome that depth of knowledge, that real insight, and some just want to have a clear head and just want to watch the ball hit the ball. Next ball, watch the ball hit the ball. They don't want anything else. So if you cloud them and force a team environment to try to absorb all this information around strategy, you lose 80% of the team within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because we were working with Robin Uthappa asking about KKR. And he said, as a player, I wanted to know everything about the opposition. I want to know what matchups they're coming up with. I want to know everything. He said, but Andre Russell did not want to see the analyst. He said, don't clutter my mind, man. Don't clutter my mind. I'm going to see the ball and hit it in the stands. Don't tell me anything else. So he said there are different kinds of players within each team as well. But sometimes your data can tell you this is the way to bowl to a Dhoni. This is the way to bowl to a Kohli. This is the way to bowl to a Rohit. And the analyst comes up with the plans, the coaches come up with the plan, but can the bowler deliver? And sometimes you can get into a situation where you're deciding team plan, but finally the players got to deliver what the analyst and the coach is saying.
Absolutely, and that's a really good point, because what you need is the personnel to be able to deliver what your vision is. And if you don't have that personnel, if you don't have the right left arm spinner, whether whoever it might be that you're matching up against, they're more than likely going to relish the fact that a part-timer or someone that doesn't have the big game temperament is going to take advantage of it. But if you've got the right matchup with the right personnel, they know before they've even bowled a ball, they've got a psychological advantage, because it's already talked about in the lead up, in all the pre-shows. It's already talked about in their environment, because you can guarantee their coach is probably going up to player, whoever it might be, and say, well, you know that Shakib Al Hasan is going to start. Yes. They're not going to play Nubby this game. They're going to play Shakib Al Hasan because they know that he can bowl at least 2 in the power play. And, you know, how are you looking to play that? These are probably going to be the 2 outfielders. What are you looking to do?
What's an ideal T20 composition for you? If you were told, these are the skills I want in my side. I mean, I've never been a coach. I sat down, I thought I'd do it one day. So I've got top 4 batsmen, one guy who will control the side, 3 attackers, maybe 2 openers are going for it. One of the top 5 has to be a keeper, 6 and 7, maybe a spin bowling all-rounder, seam bowling all-rounder, 8 who can bat. 9th and 11 doesn't matter, they go and take wickets. But from a coach's point of view, I mean, this is easy. You don't need analytics to tell you that. But if you said, right, this is my skeleton, this is my arms, my legs, my torso, my head, what would your T20 skills be?
I think firstly, you need a dynamic fielding side. I think with the ball, ideally you want 2 spinners, one that spins from leg to off and the other doing the opposite. Ideally, one of those spinners being a wrist spinner or a mystery spinner. So that combination, I think, is imperative. I think it's great having a left-arm pace bowler. I just love the angles that a left-arm pace bowler creates. And he can ask some questions. I think he can ask more questions than what a right-armer does for whatever reasons we can dissect. And you need quality finishers. You need people that love the opportunity to finish a game. There's many that are happy to do it, but do they love it? And I think the difference between happy and love is the execution that goes missing. And you get someone like Bhuvi, who is a rare specimen when it comes to someone that's got incredibly good skills. He's like an artist with a new ball, but he's still got that incredibly fine-tuned skills at the depth. So he can change that swinging length to a depth length with change of pace so brilliantly, but he enjoys that challenge. But there's many bowlers that get thrusted into the situation of being the death bowler, but they don't love it. They don't love it. Look, but I look at Bumrah and I think this is the guy that loves it. I look at Malinga. He's got a smile on his face.
Yeah.
He knows what's coming.
Yeah.
So I think once the bowler has confidence in his skills and he has got those, he's well equipped with those skills, it becomes a fun job against a nightmare.
I mean, you talked about your great admiration for MS. I mean, Stephen Fleming, you know Stephen very well. He's been with CSK for a long time. Your coach of CSK, you hardly have anything to do, isn't it? Because Dhoni takes the team onto the ground. So it must be so different being a coach of a team that Dhoni is captain.
Well, Stephen Fleming's golf handicap is very good, put it that way, doesn't it? He's got, look, not taking anything away from, his role. He's played a significant role in that, and just taking us back to the point I was making about the coach and their role with the leader, and that's where Fleming's been very smart. He's understood Dhoni better than anyone, and has managed to get the best out of Dhoni. And there's a lot of work that Fleming does behind the scenes that's not seen to enable that team to function as effectively as it has done for a long period of time.
I mean, I could talk to T20 cricket for the next 10 hours, but that CSK team is something else. I mean, you wonder if the physio should be on the field along with the players, because you never know where he'll be needed. And they still make finals and they still win trophies. Is youth overstated in T20 cricket?
Well, it certainly
or is experience
can be
understated?
Yeah, I think it's the other way around. I think experience can be understated. I think one of the issues with experience comes casualties with injury, and also, I suppose, casualties in the field with regards to where am I going to field this person? Actually, I've got 4 of them I've got to hide. Where in T20 cricket, it's got to the stage where you need a field full of athletes, not half a field full of them. So that's what you have to weigh up, is that you do need experience, because there's no doubt experience, understand, and we experienced that when we played CSK in the final, when Shane Watson took the game from us. Like we had them on a silver platter. I think Watson had faced 11 balls and hadn't got off the mark. But a young Watson would have got out for less than 20. An old Watson had walked that path many, many times over many, many situations, and he knew how to navigate himself out of that situation. So that's the value of experience, is that they deliver on the big stage and they understand pressure.
I'll tell you a thing or two about Tom Moody, for those of you who know Tom Moody as a coach. And sometimes your most recent persona is so overwhelming that it tends to overtake the past role. For a long time, Tom and I used to talk about the fact that he had more World Cup medals than Sachin Tendulkar, having won with Australia in '87 and then having played a part in that great match, the great World Cup semi-final, a big part in 1999. And specifically, Tom, I want to ask you about those 2 games, because those 2 World Cups, because '87, Australia are, dare I say it, a team in turmoil, almost is coming out of that period in '85 and '86, when a lot of people had retired simultaneously, and yet came to India, won the World Cup. And then '99 was the setting up of a team that was to go and dominate World Cup cricket for the next 3 World Cups. As a coach, you were a player then, but I mean, Pep Guardiola said when he was a player, he was thinking like a coach. Were you already thinking like that?
I think that certainly not in the early days in '87. I was very new to first-class cricket, let alone international cricket, and I was lucky enough to get on that trip to India for that '87 World Cup. But certainly by the time '99 came around, I was very much in the twilight of my career. And yeah, look, I had a captain, more than a coach's head on, I had a captain's head on. I think that's one of the reasons I ended up in that final squad, because Steve Waugh, the captain at the time, and Jeff Marsh, the coach, wanted some more sort of leadership skills within that squad. So they both went hard to try to get me in that squad, and thankfully they were successful.
What would you, looking back, have learned as a coach from the events of both '87, when you had almost a firm but reluctant captain, and '99, when you had a tougher leader? As a coach, were there some learnings?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very different team in '87. We were a team that had very little experience amongst us. You name some of the players now and you think, oh, what is he talking about? The likes of Boone, Jones, Marsh, Steve Waugh. Obviously, Border was the experienced one within that squad. But we were finding our way, and we had it was during a time where a coach was also finding their feet within the cricketing community, because not too many teams were ruled by a coach or had the backroom staff that you do in the modern game. So Bob Simpson, who was the coach, had a free rein really with a very inexperienced side, and he had a chance to really shape that team to the way he felt the game needed to be played and what it looked like for Australia moving forward. Where in '99, Steve Waugh was the captain, Jeff Marsh was the coach. Very different situation. It was a very mature side. It was littered with world-class match winners in the likes of McGrath, Steve Waugh himself, Warne, Mark Waugh, it goes on. So it required a different level of managing from a coach's perspective. So, you know, I'd be lying to say that I haven't sort of looked back on, you know, those teams and many other teams that I've been involved with and not sort of just plucked out what I thought were important learnings.
Last thing with you, you've been a bowler's coach, so certainly that's the image you now have after SRH. We're going to give you a grid, and you're going to pick 5 bowlers out of those. So I think you've got the grid with you. I've got the grid here with me. Let's go row 1 in that grid.
Okay, row 1. I'm going with Narayan.
Right. You had Ashwin, Narayan, Jadeja, Shakib, Nabi. You've gone Sunil Narayan. You said you wanted a slightly mystery kind of bowler. You've got Chahal, Rashid, Zampa, Tahir, Kuldeep. You've got 5 wrist spinners. They're once a lefty.
Do I need to answer that one?
Are you picking Rashid then?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Okay.
I've got my 2 spinners locked away. As it turns out, I've got 2 spinners of mystery.
You've got a lot of left-handers coming up. Your next row is Bolt, Stark, Behrendorff, Amir, Mohammad Amir, and Sheldon Cottrell.
I'm going with Stark. I think Stark's his strike rate in T20 cricket or any format is phenomenal. Even though he hasn't played a lot of T20 cricket over recent years, I think Amir has played about nearly 10 times more games than what Stark has, and he's got a very impressive record as well. But I'm sticking with what I know, and I'd go with Stark.
The next 2 are probably trickier because they're all right-handers. There's some very good bowlers there. Bhuvi and Bumrah, both in that list. I know you like Bhuvi. I know you admire Bumrah. Dale Steyn, Pat Cummins, Tim Southee.
Yeah, it is a difficult one. But Bhuvi, I've got a huge soft spot. I've got a huge soft spot for him. But I'm going with Bumrah because I just think he is so unique. He is a brilliant finisher. He also has the ability to knock over quality players at the top. I'm not saying any of those other bowlers haven't got that ability, but I think there's just something very unique and special with Bumrah that just puts him a step above the rest.
Yeah, just check your WhatsApp. There's a message from Bhuvi in there. Okay, you've got Shami, Archer, Malinga, Rabada, and Ferguson.
Well, if we're picking a side that spans over the last 10 years, so I'm getting this particular player at his best, hands down Malinga. I just think that today,
Archer,
I think I'd lean towards Archer.
But Malinga is something else. I mean, like morally, what was it with all the Sri Lankans? They all played with a smile, that generation.
Yeah, and the other thing, Harsha, with the Sri Lankans also is that they're allowed to embrace who they are. And what I'm referring to there is that technically who they are. So if a Malinga came through our system in Australia, he would have been, well, they would have attempted to change his technique, because the thought would have been, well, you can't bowl the ball like that. You've got to get over the top and present the seam over the top and not do it from the side. So he may have been lost to the game, who knows? But that's what I enjoy about the subcontinent as a whole, is that the uniqueness is embraced.
Thank you very much. Look forward to catching up on our journey somewhere. I don't know when. The world's going through this strange period, but I don't know when, but I look forward to that.
I do too, Harsha. Thank you very much.